I'll get your subscription, my pretty. And your little dog, too.
Hi, I'm the professor, Dr. Chris McCusker. Welcome to another edition of the Quarantine Management Institute. We are talking about leading in a crisis, and right now we're experiencing the COVID-19 pandemic, a real crisis situation. Many businesses are trying to deal with that crisis. We're going to try to explore two cases that I'm familiar with from experience, and we're going to think about lessons of crisis leadership and apply those lessons to the COVID-19 pandemic. We talked about 6 issues in an earlier episode, and I'm going to tell a couple stories now, and then we're going to come back and we're going to look at what those stories reveal about those 6 lessons. The first is the story of Tulane University and Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina happened in 2005. I was on the faculty of the A.B. Freeman School of Business at Tulane at that time. I joined that faculty in 2004. In the summer of 2005, I was traveling in Latin America, doing seminars, visiting friends, tourism. I was in Latin America most of the summer. I was in Santiago, Chile, when the storm hit. I remember I was scheduled to come back because the semester was starting and I needed to get back to New Orleans to teach. So I left Santiago Friday night with a plane arriving in Atlanta Saturday morning, changing planes in Atlanta, coming to New Orleans Saturday afternoon. Classes were starting Monday. When I was about to get on the plane in Santiago, Chile, I looked at the television monitor and I saw that a hurricane was coming across Miami. It wasn't clear where it was going or what was going to happen, but it was something to keep an eye on. When I landed in Atlanta Saturday morning, the storm had reformed to be a monstrous, horrifying-looking storm in the Gulf of Mexico, and it was heading right to the Gulf Coast of Mississippi. Oh, I was in Atlanta. I'm not going to catch my flight to New Orleans at that point, and I'm getting information from colleagues that Tulane has closed. Students are being sent home. We have to evacuate the city, so there was no point in me going there. The storm hit. I should also say, for a city of New Orleans to have one day to we were told that the storm will hit, make landfall Sunday night, and it was Saturday when it was clear that it had reformed. It was a very fast-moving storm, so there wasn't a lot of time. So basically, the city of New Orleans had and Tulane University had one day to evacuate, which is quite a difficult situation. And also it was the end of the month. A lot of people wait for their pay to come at the end of the month. A lot of people with Social Security waiting for their pay. The first or third, a lot of people get paid, different things. So a lot of people didn't have money to evacuate. And so they took shelter in the Superdome and the Convention Center. Famously, those were horrific stories. People without water or food in the extreme heat, suffering ultimately. But I was in Atlanta riding the storm out, and the storm hit Saturday night. And Monday morning, it looked like New Orleans had made it through the storm. Clearly, the Mississippi coast was devastated. I don't know if you remember the images of Bay St. Louis. The whole town was basically upside down, houses upside down, shredded. Gulfport and Biloxi, blocks in from Ocean Drive, just devastated, gone. Houses gone, roofs torn off, houses upside down. But New Orleans looked like it was intact. It looked like New Orleans had survived the storm. What happened, though, Monday was that the levees burst. The storm surge put so much pressure on the levees that they burst in 3 parts, flooding the city. New Orleans is shaped like a U. It's called the Crescent City because of the shape of the Mississippi River. And if along the banks of the Mississippi River, it's high ground. The sediment over time causes an elevated above sea level crest where the original city was. As the city grew, it expanded into the swamp, which was filled in, but is still below sea level. Where I was living in New Orleans was 10 feet below sea level. And the levees protect the city. It turns out the levees were never built according to the specifications. That's a whole different story, a whole different episode. But they burst, and the city flooded, and stayed flooded for 2 to 3 weeks. When the city flooded, it was Tuesday morning. I woke up in Atlanta and saw the city had flooded, and I thought to myself, wow, what is going on? Tulane is, are we even going to have a university? Do I have a job? I didn't know what's going on. I got a call from a colleague at a different university. I remember he opened the call by saying, Tulane is out. If you need to work, we need help. Come on, you can come teach here. I said, let me get back to you. I don't know what's going on. Within 72 hours of the storm, I believe it was that the next day or the Thursday of that week, where I got word of three very important decisions made by Scott Cowen. Scott Cowen, the president of Tulane University. The first decision was that the university will reopen in January. This is a crazy idea at the time. The city's flooded. There's no intelligent life in the city whatsoever, except for the people who are suffering at the Superdome and the Convention Center. Nobody's there. I mean, Scott Cowen had taken charge, however, formed a team of advisors, and realized that three decisions had to be made in order to save the university. The first is that we got to set a time when we reopen. We can't wait a year. It's got to be January. If we wait a year, we might not have anybody ever come back. So whether we like it or not, we got to open in January. Number two, students can go to a different university and their credits will be applied toward their Tulane degree. However, they're not allowed to enroll in that different university. Somehow, Scott Cowen, working through the Association of University Presidents, was able to make an agreement with university presidents all around the country that Tulane students can come to will be admitted to your university, regardless of whatever university it is. Please take them in, and it was agreed we'll take them in. They'll take classes, and their classes will be applied toward their Tulane degree, but you can't admit them. Don't take them to be your students because we need them. Tulane is a revenue-driven institution. Without tuition revenue, there would be no university. So the agreement was struck among university presidents that Tulane students can go, but must come back in January. And then number three, faculty and staff would be paid. As soon as I heard that, I called my friend back and said, look, I'm going to ride it out with Tulane. Let's see what happens. This looks like it's going to be really the place to be. What a story. What's going on? So I decided to stay at Tulane, and I'm glad I did. It was a very important decision to stay. Scott Cowen took charge. Scott Cowen formed a team of advisors, recognized the decisions that had to be made to save the university, and took those decisions courageously. If you think about it, he's saying in 5 months we're going to reopen. Nobody knew at that time how the water was even going to get out of the city. The pumps were broken. How's the water going to get out of the city? We have no idea. We're dealing with the human tragedy at the Superdome and the Convention Center. He's with his team of advisors walking around at Tulane University with water up to his knees, and said, you know what, we're going to open in January. Amazing vision, amazing courage, decisive, autocratic leadership style that was necessary to save Tulane University. The story of Tulane and Hurricane Katrina shows us exceptional crisis leadership during the survival stage of the crisis.